All right, folks, we're going to get started on this question and answer. Thank you all for coming. We've got a full region. I don't think I'm going to raise the limit. So welcome to here. We've got some devs up here. We're going to talk. I'm sure you all have like a lot of questions about the 64-bit version that's coming. There's been a lot of questions on the blog. And I've seen in other blog posts as well from people asking all kinds of questions, not fully understanding what 64-bit means to them. And so I'm not going to pretend, here's the disclaimer, I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about this time because in a lot of this stuff I'm probably as clueless as some of the most clueless people. I know a little bit, but I've seen like people ask questions, and I'm going to get to this at some point in our blog comments about multi-threading and stuff like that. What? I don't know. So I'm hoping that Cinder and some of our devs up here will be able to answer some of these questions as well for us. And I'm going to get started talking about, before I get to the 64-bit stuff, we'll get the 32-bit release out of the way. So we are releasing a public beta, as you probably all know, at the end of this month. When, if I give you the actual date, it'll jinx it, so I'm not going to give you the end of the date. I'm just going to say end of the month, roughly, give or take, somewhere around there. And it is a public beta because it has well-known bugs, and some of them are annoying, and some of them you'll probably be able to live with. Lassie is our QA lead. Lassie, are you on voice? I didn't even think to ask.
No.
Oh, there's Lassie. Lassie, is this or is this not ready for public release?
Not as a release, it is as a beta.
Okay, there you have it. It's on him, so if it explodes, it's his fault, not mine. I didn't do it. Thanks for coming, Lassie. So yeah, anyway, the fact is, it does have bugs, but we want to get what we have out because Linen Lab has a whole bunch of new stuff coming, like server-side appearance improvements. That's their polish-up code, inventory changes, which is also part of that. And that's quite significant. There's quite a bit of code there in that. So it's not something that we can just, let's just, boom, done. You can't do that. It's going to take some time. We've got the group band code that's coming, which we haven't even seen yet. We've got interest list changes, which is like a lot of stuff. You guys remember us complaining about Chewy before, being a lot of code? Well, interest list changes is also a lot of code and a lot of changes because what they're doing now with that is allowing the viewer to handle a lot of the mathematics and decision making. So that's quite a bit of change in viewer code for us. So also a whole lot of stuff that we have to merge in that department. We've got HTTP, which is like network stuff, which is coming from Linen Lab. That's a lot of stuff. And so we were hoping we would get that stuff sooner. Most of it is still not even public, or what is public is certainly, even by Linen Lab's own admittance, is not in any way stable or production ready, which means we shouldn't even think about trying to merge it right now. And by us, I mean any third-party viewer. It's just not ready. There's still lots more yet to come to it. So the decision was kind of like, do we wait for another month or two into 2014 before we get materials and whatever else we have? Or can we just, maybe what we have is good enough to go out as, just as a beta? As in, it's not fully stable. It does have some bugs. We still have some interface bugs here and there because of the Chewy merge. So the idea really is to get it out to you now as it is. Although we're calling it a public beta, and I'm sure support would rather I said that we're not providing support for public beta. But I think the reality is most of you in Second Life who use Firestorm will be using this public beta because it's got materials and all the latest kind of stable code, I guess you could say. I don't expect it to be any crashier or less stable than any of our other viewer releases. It's just that, it's got little quirks and things going on. So that's going out at the end of the month. It'll be the same as a basic release. It's just going to be beta at the top. And what am I forgetting about that? Ed, am I forgetting anything about that?
No, not really. Just that it will be supported and we will be teaching it in the classes.
Yeah, so basically, although we call it a beta, it is going to be fully supported. We kind of have to support it. So we're talking about the 32-bit folks is supported. We'll get to the 64-bit in a minute. Okay, so that's the 32-bit. Questions on the 32-bit?
End of this month, Max.
Yeah, the end of this month.
I would, yeah. And Hugsy, as for how soon after release, I will cite the Ernest and Julio Gallo commercials at you. We will release no code before it's time.
It's going to be a little while because we've got, like I say, a lot of new stuff coming downstream from Linden Lab, and we were expecting it. I don't think we were expecting it to be as much as change, as much of a difficult merge as it is turning out that it's going to be again, but we were expecting it. We were expecting it a lot sooner than we're getting it right now. So, because, you guys probably remember in the last couple Q&As, and we had said that, we're hoping our next release will have all this stuff, but the truth is it's not even available to us. There's been this, I've been noticing this thing from people in blog posts saying that we're holding things back. Okay, materials is not out in Firestorm yet. It's also not out in most of the third-party viewers. And Linden Lab, I think, and Exodus, I believe, are the only two viewers that have it, and probably Catснip, I don't know for sure. But like the major viewers don't have materials out. We're not holding things back. We're certainly not holding back the server-side appearance updates and things like that. Singularity doesn't have materials yet, from what I understand. I was told they're planning to release it next week.
I don't think on release.
No. So, anyway, we're not holding things back, and we are moving along as quickly as we possibly can. That's right, they've got it in their alpha. That's not really a release date. But anyway, I resent people that think that we're holding things back. I will grant to those people that Mesh took us a little bit longer to actually get out released than it was anticipated, but we had other issues that held that back. But anyway, hopefully we can get this new code merged by the time Linden Lab has it stable. And hopefully we can get something out by like February, So one of the things I want to do with the team right now is once we get this public beta out, you know what, Thanksgiving is coming for the Americans, Christmas is coming, holidays, all that stuff. I think it would be nice for our team to have a little bit of a break without panicking trying to cram in all this new stuff. So, no, sorry, not a raise. Can't afford it. I got some coal for your stockings for our dev people and support people.
Hey, wait a minute. Did you just say that we all get a break?
No break. Broken bones, maybe. Okay, so no questions about the 32-bit release, the upcoming public beta. Everybody totally is on the same page. Alexis, not likely. I think contact sets is about what you're going to get in that regard. Otherwise, it's going to require some Linden Lab server intervention. Are we going to fix media on Linux? I didn't know there was, I know there's always problems with media on Linux.
Yeah, there's, the media on Linux is a 64-bitness thing. So we'll have to address that when we get into that.
yeah, I'll get to the 64-bit stuff, including the Linux questions. And I think that's about all the questions we're seeing then for the 32-bit public beta, which, by the way, guys, should be like the highlight on your mind, not the 64-bit. The fact that we're putting out a public beta, a new release with new stuff, with DAE export, for example, Cinder, for that, right here beside me, and import-export of all kinds of things, like really cool stuff coming. And that's what you should be excited about, because the 64-bit that's coming is an experiment. A lot of people are like, ooh, 64-bit, can't wait. Let me tell you something. It is completely an experiment, and it's alpha. And so let's talk about that really quickly a little bit. If you're one of those explorers and brave people who want to try something new and decide to download and install the 64-bit Windows version, and you find a bug, and then you say, okay, I'm going to go to the support group, and I'm going to say, how come this is not working, or this is doing this, or that's doing that? And what they're going to do is they're going to say, thank you for your feedback. If you could just email that to jessica.lyon@phoenixviewer.com, it would be much appreciated. And the reason they're going to tell you that is because we want your feedback on it. But we're probably not going to be able, we'll be able to help you with like questions like, where is this setting? Or where is that setting? Or how do I change this? Yeah, I'm going to get a crazy amount of emails. I'm going to hate myself for it. But anyway. The fact is, we're not convinced, I am not convinced that 64-bit Windows version actually has that big of a difference. I've been running it for the past, week or so, and switching back to the 32-bit brother of it, same version, everything, and I can't really notice a significant improvement. Maybe you will. I've crashed on it, and I've also been in situations like this right now where I've got a significant draw distance where everybody's res. There's like 70 people here, and I'm actually doing pretty good performance-wise. But I would be, with the 32-bit as well. So we're not convinced that it's all that great. Everybody's been asking for it for years. Some of you may have read Anara Pay's blog post recently. Anara interviewed us about the 64-bit. The question may be, what brought us to doing it? Well, we didn't do it. Actually, Nikki Dasman did, who was our lead Firestorm developer. And she did it because she had an itch, which is the nice thing about open source, is that you can just have an itch and decide to scratch it. And she was playing with it for a while, I guess, and decided she felt it was ready, and she dropped it in our code repository, and she opened in that process a very big can of worms. Thank you, Anara. There's the blog post, and it's a good read. And we were actually a little bit all surprised, although some of us knew that she was working on it. I don't think any of us expected her to drop it in the code, just like that. Surprise! But yeah, there it is. And suddenly we've got there are other third-party viewers. Singularity. I spoke to Latif a couple days ago, and they actually have their own version of 64-bit, which they've released in an alpha form. And they, I don't know how theirs is doing. I haven't talked to them since after they released it, but so I'd be interesting to hear how that's going. And so I want your feedback. We want your feedback, and probably what I'm going to do is basically I want to know if it's, if you find it's fast, send me an email. Let me know. If you find it slow, send me an email. If you find that it's stable or unstable, things like that, that's what we want to know. And what I'm going to do is basically make a filter on my email and have all your emails go to a folder. And then I'm going to copy paste everything you send me, providing it's PG and without your names, onto a public Google Doc that I'll link to from somewhere on the website, and then we'll try to sift through all the results. I expect there's going to be a lot of placebo, and I'll tell you why I think that, because there have been times Ed, how many times have we seen placebo with viewer stuff?
Far too many.
Like, we'll go from one
Every
release, yeah, where we've never changed. Nothing's changed in that. You're telling us that it's 10 times better now than it was yesterday, but nothing's changed. It's placebo, I'm telling you. So there's going to be a lot of placebo. There's going to be a lot of people, I expect, will be saying the 64-bit is amazing. It's so much better. And it might be. I know there's some truth to that. It'll probably be, some computer systems will probably find a difference in performance gains than other computer systems. I've not noticed it. Maybe I just don't have, I'm not lucky enough to have one of those systems. So we'll talk a little bit about 64-bit versus 32-bit. If you are on I've seen this question a lot, what about, I'm on Windows 7 64-bit, but I've only got 4 gig of RAM. Am I going to have an improvement? In theory, you should have some improvement. Let me try telling you the difference between large address aware and 64-bit. And this is something I learned just recently from Enserial and Cinder, because I knew that this question was going to be asked, and I needed to fully try to understand it. And so basically, large address aware, so let's say you have a system with 8 gig of RAM. And somebody correct me, I know, Cinder, somebody correct me because I know I'm going to botch this completely. Let's say you've got Windows 64-bit operating system, 8 gigs of RAM, and you're running Firestorm with large address aware. And you notice that it never goes past like 1.5 gig, I think is the most the viewer ever really uses anyways. So what large address aware means is that without large address aware, the viewer, the amount of memory the operating system allocates for the viewer is somewhat dependent on other applications that you have running as well. When you have large address aware, it'll allow the viewer to have a little bit more memory than the other applications that you also have running in the background or wherever. Did I get that right, Cinder, so far? I think I got that right so far. Cool. The difference with 64-bit, the problem is a lot of people think large address aware means it can use all 8 gig. It can't. There is still a 3.5 gig cap. It can't go beyond that because it's a 32-bit viewer, because the Firestorm viewer you're running is 32-bit. When you have a 64-bit viewer, suddenly it can allocate a lot more memory. It can use up even all 8 gig if it needs to. I can assure you it won't. In fact, I would be surprised if it went past 2 gig anyways. So, is there a real advantage to it? I don't know. I'm not convinced, but I'm a skeptic. So I think I got that right? Did I get that right? I'm going to assume I got that right. Okay, I'm going to read some...
That's pretty good.
That's pretty close. Layman terms, kind of close.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to, because we asked in the blog post for people who couldn't make it, if they wanted to ask some questions, and that we try to answer them. And there wasn't all that many questions, so I'm just going to skim through these really quickly. Rob Fox says, I was wondering if you would be able to add an inventory filter by permissions. I realize this might be complicated, and there are at least 2 ways this could be approached. Before I go any further, he is absolutely right. This is going to be complicated, and it would very likely require server-side, and inventory is very complicated anyways, and inventory is a whole lot of convoluted code. And anytime we make changes to something that has like a lot of code, it causes a lot of merge nightmares for us with LinuLab every single time we merge with them. And so when it comes to changes to inventory, it better be a feature that has a lot of value, because it's going to be a lot of work maintaining it going down the road. And I had somebody today messaged me as well, had a great idea for inventory improvements. Inventory is one of those areas where there's tons of room for improvement, but it mostly requires server-side support. And really, I think we're all kind of a little bit scared of inventory, because you break inventory, you're going to pay the price. That's just not a... It's like the Bermuda Triangle of Second Life viewer code. Okay, next question. I saw this one and I just about choked on my sandwich. True multi-thread from the Linden Labs source or from additional input to take advantage of 8 integer cores from AMD or 8 hyper threads from Intel, although 4 cores and 4 threads are quite common occurrence. First of all, what? I don't even understand the question.
Jess, I can handle that one.
Go for it.
All right. Basically, what they're asking is, can Firestorm be made to use 8 cores, 8 threads? You know, a fancy processor with lots and lots of parallel processing power can do multiple things at one time. And the answer to that is not without a whole bunch of rewriting. Taking existing programs and turning them into something that can handle doing more than one thing at a time is a notoriously difficult problem. Firestorm and the Linden Lab Viewer, I can't speak to the others, they have some things that have been moved off into other threads, which means that if you have a 4-core processor, it can do something else at the same time as running the main viewer code. But breaking up the viewer into lots of different threads of execution is a difficult problem, in part because you have to understand, okay, so what can you parallelize? What can you break out and have another CPU do at the same time as the rest of Firestorm? Doing that would require a lot of intensive measurement and effort and understanding of the code. And at this point, I'm not sure anybody understands the code to that level of detail. We probably don't. I'd be surprised if Linden Lab really had that level of understanding at the deep level required. That doesn't mean that they don't, but it means that maybe there's 1 or 2 people there, and they're up to their ears in alligators as it is. That's something that Linden Lab would probably not see as that Linden Lab would not see as a high return kind of effort for them. Jura, it's doing multiple things, but the question is, can it parallelize them? Can it do those things at the same time and not have one piece depend on the results of another piece? And that problem is much harder than you think. I mean, yeah, you can scatter interlocks all over every place and have it, and tell one piece of the code to wait until this other piece is done. But if you're going to do that, you might as well just leave it in the same thread. This is a very, very difficult problem, and one that's probably beyond our ability to tackle.
So I hope that answers that. Not going to happen. Cinder, what is it, though? Or doesn't matter because it's not coming on? Okay. Shikino asks, I've read materials are coming in this beta. Are ribbon glow particles coming with it too? Yes, they are. Although, and Worley replied to that, particle glow is currently broken, and that is not our fault. DJ Stedenmeister, sorry to laugh, asks, I think a useful feature for those of us with massive friend lists and who want to show as if we are offline would be an invisible or show offline option at the top of the contact list or in the communications menu option. As a matter of fact, there is that feature. Ed, where is that?
It's there, but I don't want people using it.
And tell us why.
And the reason I tell you not to use it, you can change them manually quicker than you can do it using that eye icon. There's an eye icon. Oh, I'm not on the release. It's on the people panel, if I remember correctly. On the friends tab on the people panel.
What it does is it sequentially goes through all your contacts and toggles off show my online status to friends.
And
except for that
takes a long time.
It takes a long time because it does each one sequentially. So it does one, waits the confirmation, then does the second one. If you do them all one after another, there could be failures, but it would just be that one not synchronizing properly, and relogging would fix it.
Takes about 10 minutes to do 50 people. If you have a friends list of 50 people, it takes about 10 minutes for it to happen. I don't know about you, but I can click 50 times quicker than 10 minutes.
And another thing to keep in mind is if you do use it, it will toggle all of them off. And if you use it again to toggle them on, it'll toggle them all back on. So if there was someone on your contacts list that you had show my status to turned off, it will turn it back on if you use that to turn it back on. It won't keep that remembered because it is toggling the actual setting for that.
And of course, there is the well-known fact that scripts can totally bypass any of those settings to determine if you're online or not. Wait, did not fix that? Is that fixed?
I believe it always returns true now, or it had for a while. They may have unbroke it, unfixed it, returned it. I don't know, but there was a period where it was returning always true.
What's the status of that, Skills?
It's back to the way it should be.
Oh, great.
It works.
I'm wondering
if
it was intentional.
Okay, so yeah.
Did they intentionally change it?
I remember they tried, but then it broke a lot of other content.
Well,
there's a lot of legitimate content that uses it.
Well, there was a couple thoughts on how they were going to do it. I think one was always false, and that would cause problems, and the next was like always true, and that caused different problems. And then it seemed like they went ahead and did something anyway a year later. So they probably ended up reverting it.
I think I've gotten through all the blog questions. I believe I have. Okay, let's talk about... actually, I'll put Cinder out for misery, and she's up next. Who wants to talk about 64-bit Mac? Cinder, what's happening with that? Or did we put Mac? Did we put Cinder to sleep? Cinder?
Wakey, wakey.
Cinder. Anyone got a feather?
They don't work well in Second Life, Jess.
Cinder. Okay, well, while she snoozes, then I'll switch over to Linux 64-bit quickly.
Copy's important.
So, Linux 64-bit. Who wants to know about Linux 64-bit? Linux 64-bit is not new, as you all know. Most of you probably, at least if you're a Linux user, as you know. And unfortunately, it is highly unlikely that we're going to have Linux 64-bit on time for the release. So I tasked TechWolf with doing that, and in fact, we even have instructions somewhere on how to do it. Like it's not that complicated to do. The trouble is, TechWolf has been really busy in real life, and he just hasn't had time to do it. That's the bad news. The good news is it is coming. It's just that it probably won't be available when we release the 64-bit Windows Alpha. And so, Yeah, the instructions are on the wiki somewhere. Compiling Firestorm, I believe it was under. I have, in fact, no doubt that Whirly or somebody is going to post a link to it at some point.
Jera, no.
There it is. Thank you.
Major rewrite. Yeah, Jera on that.
Well, let me
basically
try to address that. It is true that I think in order to have tear off windows, the viewer would need to be 64-bit.
Actually, the limitation is not the viewer 64-bit. The limitation for tear-off windows and multi-screen support and all that is that the user interface code has the assumption that everything is drawn in one window, baked into it very, very, very deeply. You're talking about a total rewrite of the user interface code to enable that. And, that's just not going to happen.
Or the inclusion of a third-party interface library that is OS dependent, and then having a completely different interface that's outside, and that's just another mess altogether.
Having tear off windows is what I consider the holy grail. Really, I don't have one of those, do you? Sorry, folks. So it apparently would be easier if it was 64-bit, at least for Windows, from what I understand. It's possible. I mean, people have worked on tear-off Windows. Dracchio, I'm going to get back to you in just a second. In fact, I'm not even seeing what's typed underneath what Dracchio said because I don't want to lose his question. Let's just say, though, that tear-off Windows is holy grail, and it might happen. It could happen, possibly, hypothetically, in the future. Okay, Dracchio asks, yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm sort of typing to Whirly at the same time. Okay, Dracchio asked, right now a lot of large programs like 32-bit Mozilla Firefox are running into a memory wall. I haven't ran into the problem yet with Firestorm. I still am able to build in 32-bit and cross-compile in 64-bit. Do you see this as a problem with viewer down the road? Firestorm does use more memory when compiling. Yes, the 64-bit system works well up to the 4.6 G. Okay, so we do have some crashes where the viewer goes beyond the amount of memory that's allocated for it, and it crashes. We call them memory crashes, and we do have some of those. And we're thinking that the 64-bit might actually fix that simply because there's more memory available. Whether it's an improvement, that's where we need your feedback, guys. We're going to need your feedback on what is your experience. And I don't want your feedback like, I just downloaded it and installed it and just launched it. I've been on it for 5 minutes and I'm so happy with it. I don't want that. I want you to come and send us an email after like a week or maybe 2 weeks or even a month, because using it for 5 minutes or an hour or a day is not really enough to give good feedback. And what'll end up happening is you'll give feedback after an hour, and then a week later your feedback will be completely different, and you'll have to update me with that, and then I'll be confused because I've got conflicting things coming from you. 1 minute you like it, when the next minute you don't. So take your time, enjoy it, play with it, put together your thoughts before you send us some feedback. Okay, I'm going to try to catch up in text chat here. Tear off what? Tear off Windows. That is like having the ability to rip off your conversations panel and move it outside your viewer. That would really only be beneficial to people with multiple monitors. That would be very beneficial to people with multiple monitors. And Cinders is back, so I'm going to get back to Cinders in just 1 second. Cinders, Jody says, tear off Windows would be the ultimate nightmare for support. Where's my window gone? Yes, that is true. But I think like 2 years ago, somebody would have said it's really unlikely that there would ever be a 64-bit Windows version of the viewer, and probably I may have even said that myself, and I'm sure it has been said back then. And here we are with coming out with a 64-bit version of the viewer. Singularity's got one. In I think very short time, all the viewers out there are going to have one. I suspect if the crash rate is reduced enough on the 64-bit, Linden Lab will adopt it. I understand Oz is interested. In fact, Oz wanted us to have a different channel for the 64-bit, which we were already planning anyway, because he wants to know if it's going to reduce the crash rate and be more stable. So, if the 64-bit turns out to be stable, I bet you Linden Lab will do it as well. I think regardless, though, the reality is the can of worms is open, the cat's out of the bag, and 64-bit viewers are just going to be part of the landscape moving forward now. Tear off Windows is probably the next big thing. Okay, I'm still catching up. Polly has problems keeping up with everything going on the monitor. Yeah, me too right now. Having that problem right now. Okay, so I'm caught up. Who wants to know about Mac 64-bit? Everybody. Cinder, you're up, my dear. So, Cinder, Windows is going to have, a Windows version on the website for download that's 64-bit and one that's for 32-bit. I understand poorly that Mac can do both 64 and 32-bit in one application. Please explain. Yes, you. Did we just lose Cinder again? It worked for like a split second and then it just went poof. Your dot's still there. Okay, I think Cinder's going to type, so we'll just give her a second to do that, and I hope she can type quickly. Yeah, I think Cinder, I think most of our devs are familiar with voice bugs. Okay, so, which means if we have a Mac 64-bit available, and when we do, it'll be in one build instead of two. Cinder, do people have to know how to switch that? How does that work for folks that don't understand? So does that happen during install? I should have saw that coming, Tanya. So the next logical question is, are we going to have a Mac 64-bit capable viewer release with this public beta? Yes or no? Cinder, what's the answer? So there you go. You're all disappointed. Sorry. Thanks for coming. The reality is we're not going to have Linux on time, and we won't have Mac on time. But I think there is a good chance that within the next, or a week or two after the public beta, a new Mac might appear that will be 64-bit compatible, and a Linux may appear that will be 64-bit compatible. Starship wants to know what's the minimum processor and operating system for Mac 64. What would that be? Cinder? I think we lost Cinder again. Okay, thank you, Arissa. So Arissa's got a link up there that should have those answers. And Tanya also mentioned something there, so no Mac 64-bit on this release, at least not at the time of this release. Probably not Linux at the time of this release.
Jess, can I poke something?
Yeah.
The big deal about building 64-bit versions of Firestorm, and that's on all three OSs, is that the distributed Firestorm includes a bunch of independently developed libraries, upwards of 30. And all of those libraries are as distributed by Linden Lab, and as we've rebuilt some of them, have all been built for 32 bits. They have to be rebuilt for 64 bits in order to be included and redistributed. And so that's what Nikki did to make 64-bit Windows work. Firestorm itself has been 64-bit clean for some time. And if you're building a standalone version of Firestorm on Linux for your 64-bit Linux OS, like a lot of people are doing, that's what you're doing. But instead of the 30 plus libraries, you're using libraries installed on your operating system. The problem is that if you build that against your operating system, then it has to be distributed only to people that use your operating system, because there are version level dependencies there, and Firestorm will simply refuse to run. And that's so the major work is in rebuilding all those libraries, and that's what Nikki did. That's what Cinder is doing for OS 10. Cinder, I hope that's what you're doing for OS 10 anyway, and that's what we will need to do for Linux. Once we do that, the rest is easy. It's kind of other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how's the theater kind of thing. Once the libraries are in place, then building and distributing Firestorm is comparatively simple.
So one of the drags of being a developer who does compiling is that they have to be on old operating systems in order to support you guys with old operating systems. And which is why it's useful to have like a build farm, because if you're on your own operating, like if you're compiling the release on your viewer, which your computer that you're using like on your daily basis, you can't really take those updates that you like to take, like Windows updates and graphics card or whatever updates. You kind of have to have an old system to be compatible for other people. We had that problem with Phoenix forever. In fact, we had to have LGG compile Phoenix for some people because he had a very old system, and there were a lot of users with very old systems that only his compile would work on for them. And so that's a problem. So being a developer means you have to have a crappy computer, ironically. We had a
Not
problem with
crappy
Snow
computer,
Leopard.
just not up to
Well, just not up to date. Yeah, not the latest stuff. And we had a problem with Snow Leopard just a couple days ago. We've had it for a little bit now in our internal work. And Cinder has had a fix for it, but when she compiled it, the fix wouldn't work because her computer is just too up to date. And so she ended up having to give it to Nikki, whose build Mac that she uses for building the release that you guys use happens to be older, and so that worked. So questions. Who's got questions? I'm sure there's got to be lots of questions, and if not, we can actually probably go home early.
Yes, I'm ready.
Oh, your voice is back.
Hi.
It was back.
Got here late. Did you say that the new Firestorm will be fully compatible with the new Mavericks iMac?
It should be. We're not going to say absolutely fully compatible because Maverick just came out.
I just
And
got it, and
yeah, you've got some problems there, right?
that will be fixed.
Yeah, that should be. Is that right, Cinder? That's going to be fixed, right, with this release? Cinder has been on Maverick before any of you because she's part of with Apple, and she was able to get the early adoption, and so she actually has made some fixes in Firestorm, like in the last couple months, I believe, to make Firestorm compatible with Maverick before it even came out.
I'll be back after I crash here, Jess.
Oh, have a good one. Land on your feet if you can.
Well, at least I got warned, so I won't land on my head. Be right back.
Sorry, Marilee, go ahead.
Sorry. Does the Mavericks require particular different settings in any of the preference folders?
Cinder, I don't know if you can hear her because she's a little bit quiet. She's asking, will the Maverick, will this release on Maverick have any changes or need to have any changes with preferences or anything like that?
Well, it should just work.
What's that?
It should work. It should have to run it full screen works, but it should work.
So it should work.
Okay, her voice is very, sounds like it's...
Yeah, crackly a little bit, yeah. Birdie will ask Cinder, the question was more about what aspects of Mavericks and Firestorm is causing audio streaming to break right now, specifically.
If we knew that, we'd.
Fmod, yeah. What's that, Merle?
The Linden Lab viewer, but not on Firestorm.
Jake,
There goes Ed.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, there goes Ed. And yes, all three builds will stay in the same source. In self-defense, we're not going to break it up unless and until Linden Lab.
There was actually, I saw some questions in the blogosphere and around, and I've had a few people ask me as well, does this mean that we're moving away from 32-bit? Absolutely not. The nice thing about 32-bit is pretty much everybody can run 32-bit. So no, we're not moving away from 32-bit. We're just adding a new, 64-bit into the family. But no, definitely not. And in fact, we can't really move away from 32-bit because a lot of people on 32-bit operating systems.
I had a question about the iPad earlier, and you said to ask it in the Q&A.
Oh, yes, thank you. Let me get to that in 1 second. Misspelled asks if we can run the 64 and 32-bit versions both installed on the computer. Yes, you can, because one will install on your program files x86 folder, which is the Win32-bit version, and the other will install to your program files folder, which is your 64-bit version, but they can share the same settings. I'm just going to let text scroll here because, sorry, I missed your name, but gentleman asked about Firestorm on iPad or iMac. Ed, you're wearing a rock. Oh, dear. If you've ever heard the term, you've been firestormed, that's what that means. You've been rocked by Firestorm, that's what that means. Ed had the rock around his waist. Anyway, Cinder and I got an email from a developer, was it earlier in the week? Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. I won't say his name because I don't know if he would want me to make his name, but I'll just read briefly what the message is. I'm planning on converting the Phoenix Firestorm code to Object-C for an eventual release on the mobile platform for iPad Air and iPhone 5S. Hey, it could happen.
Somebody's got
sorry,
infinite amount of time.
Sorry, I have to agree with Kata there. It would be easier to rewrite the code in x86 assembler.
That would be easier.
But the answer to the question is somebody is thinking about it.
Yeah.
They've got their hands full, and I wish them the best of luck because I don't want to discourage them.
As far as SL on mobile, Linden Lab is starting to actually try to do something there, but it's just on live.
Yeah, it's remember I've been saying major rewrite all this entire Q&A about different things. That is well beyond major rewrite. That is might as well start over from ground zero and work your way back up. I don't know how much time Elena Livet has invested in Lumaya, but it would be a similar commitment to get Firestorm running on iOS, if not more.
I think part of the problem, though, is the processing capabilities of things like the iPads and the iPhones. And granted, they are pretty impressive nowadays. But a proper viewer like Firestorm, which already is resource hungry, would be pretty heavy.
Well, to put it in perspective, what Linden Lab is doing for their mobile offering, they're going to be beta testing at some point. What they did instead of having to figure out how to make it render on mobile devices, they're using OnLive, which is just a video game streaming service.
So they're basically streaming video to you?
That's what OnLive is. The game runs on cloud-based servers, and then the game is streamed to you as video. So that offering is going to be pretty bandwidth intensive, I would imagine.
Well, but that might be the easiest way to do it with today's technology, but...
it's the easiest way to do it without lots of investment in making a new application, which would, for Linden Lab, I don't see them ever making that consideration. Because you'd have to get 90% equivalency to the desktop application just to, get into beta.
Well, I think though that. Well, I wouldn't take it as a solid no. Kata and Tanya are not believers. I'm of the mind
that's close.
I'm of the mind
going to do close.
I'm in the mind that 2 years ago it was pretty much thought that 64-bit viewer in a Second Life would never happen, and suddenly ta-da, here it is.
Well-
And it's about to become reality. And who's to say where we're going to be in 2 years? Advancements are happening very quickly. Not perhaps as quickly as they could be in Second Life, but advancements are happening pretty quickly. Certainly, mobile technology and hardware is moving really, really quickly. I mean, they've got now, what's the name of the phone? Nokia, I think, 40 megapixel camera on a phone, a little pinhole 40 megapixel camera. That's insane. So I would never say it's not possible.
where are the
I want to know what the raw sensor image size is, because it's
It's
probably
just pretty
enhanced.
crazy.
And they probably have some cheap molded plastic single element lens in front.
Oh, well, I have actually seen some pictures. For those of you who don't know, I'm a photographer in real life. I have actually seen some pictures taken from that phone. They gave it to, I can't remember his name. A very well-known, very high ranking kind of photographer. The kind that makes oodles of cash, and there's not many of those. They gave him one of the phones in beta, and they sent him off to New Zealand to take pictures. And I've seen some of the work that he's done, and I don't know if they've been published yet, but it's just stunning. And it's phones like that are putting people like me out of business.
Wow. Jessica, you said that you guys have been working very hard and that you're going to take a break over the Christmas period. Now, in America, I believe you guys have Christmas in the winter. Is that correct? And if so, if you want a great break and witness it in the summer, take your Christmas break to Australia.
Oh yeah, no. For me, I'll tell you why I'm not going to Australia, and I have the utmost respect for you having the balls to live in a place where everything that moves can freaking kill
Hey,
you.
I had no choice. I was born here.
I have issues with
Everything
spiders.
can kill you, including the people and the beer.
Yeah, I have issues with
It's not
spiders
as
and more
bad as
issues
everyone
with
makes out.
like spiders that can chase you down and hunt you in your sleep.
Aww. But that's what the tasty
I've seen videos of what you call a house spider. I mean, I think our house spiders. I've seen your house spiders. Those things are big as friggin' crows. That's crazy.
Don't forget, Australians don't drink Foster.
Okay, back to questions. Sorry, Hubslab, Jessica, if we can install 32-bit and 64-bit at the same time, will they also have separate cache paths? No, not unless you give them separate cache paths. Because I've had both betas and release version installed, and if I don't, no. Actually, I don't think you're going to have a problem with textures. I don't think you'll find a difference. Like, I don't think you'll have corrupt cache by sharing the cache between the 32-bit and the 64-bit. Don't hold me to that, though, because I've not actually tried it. The 64-bit I'm running actually does have its own separate cache location that I've given it. But I don't see a problem. To be honest, in all honesty, we're expecting that the 32-bit and the 64-bit viewers are going to have the same bugs, and they should be no different. The only thing really that we're wondering what's going to happen is the 64-bit going to be faster? Is it going to be more stable? Because otherwise it's pretty much the same. One other thing I should point out, though, the 64-bit does not have Havoc. It is essentially an OpenSim build, which means it works in Second Life and in OpenSim. And don't get confused with what I'm going to say. It can't properly upload mesh with physics. That doesn't mean you can't see physics. It fully supports physics and rendering physics and seeing physics. And it supports even uploading physics. But you can't upload physics with, or mesh, sorry. You can't upload mesh with physics. But it will work fine with mesh for the most part. And if you use pathfinding and in your region and need to view nav mesh from that pathfinding, it's not capable of doing that. Otherwise, it's identical.
I'm gonna yell at Hugsy here.
Okay, go.
Hugsy? Oh, Tanya? Cover your ears. Just 'cause my voice volume might go up. Don't want to deafen you. Hugsy? No. your draw distance goes way too high as it is now.
We know Hugsy
Yeah, if
well.
you want your draw distance
And
to go
Hugsy
up to like
has
4 kilometers, you need to go back to Viewer 1.
Well, a
And
lot of
the
people don't
simulator
realize
versions back
that.
then too.
A lot of people don't realize that when you raise your draw distance to 512, that's not 512 meters in front of you. That's 512 meters in front of you, behind you, to your right, to your left, above and below you. That's a lot.
Doubling your draw distance actually increases the amount of area that you potentially render eightfold. So you're not doubling your draw distance. And if you're at 1,024 meters and you put yourself in the right place, you can see the better part of 64 different regions.
Yeah. So
Ultra
I often have
defaults.
draw distance cranked up, but if I crash, I blame myself.
Ultra should default to no more than 256 actually for draw distance.
But so to clarify though, Hugsy, and Hugsy's initial question was, does that mean on the 64-bit that we could have a higher draw distance? If your findings after 2 or 3 weeks of using it, that the 64-bit lets you have a higher draw distance without crashing than the 32-bit does, send me an email because I'd like to know about it. I will. In fact, I shouldn't put it up right now, but I guess it won't matter. That will be the email address I want people to send your feedback about the 64-bit to. Don't do it now because you don't even have it yet. And I would really like to not start seeing any emails for like a week, because if I start getting emails like the day we release it, then in fact probably the first 3 days of anything that people send me, I'm just gonna maybe even ignore, because you've not given it enough time to really formulate a proper opinion. And the other thing is, of course, the placebos. And there's going to be lots of people with placebo effect. And it happens to the best of us. Where you think it's better. Try to go back and forth between the 32-bit and actually make real comparisons if you can. I know it's difficult to do properly in Second Life. In fact, I don't know if there's a proper way to do it in Second Life. But the more facts, the better. But I also want to know your opinion as well. And how does it feel to you? Does it feel better? Does it, just,
The placebo effect is very, very strong in some of you. It truly is.
The force is strong in you.
When the 441 release went out, there were people that were complaining about this and that and the other thing. When we had to withdraw that and put out the 442, which was essentially the same viewer with the same debug setting changed. All of a sudden, people were saying, "Oh, this is so much better than the 441. Thank you very much." And it was the same viewer, same code.
It was the same thing. It was like one commit that had nothing to do with anything that you would have noticed, and suddenly it was like way better. That's like the best example, actually, of placebo.
That's possible too, Hugs.
Yeah, we had people say it was worse as well. Somebody just told me I sent 2 different emails. Jessica.Lion@phoenixviewer.com. That's the email. I don't know what I sent before then, but the email that I want feedback to is jessica.lion@phoenixviewer.com.
Zan, that's correct.
And Speeder, we have considered doing that. Because people also have this idea that a higher number is better. We've noticed that with preferences a lot. Like, people see, oh, my bandwidth can slide all the way to, like, 10 trillion. Then I should just do that because that must be better. And draw distance goes really high too. Let's crank that up.
Jess is trying to get me to quit again, folks.
Jessica 64, I wrote that. Subject, just make the subject like X64 or something. I thought I saw someone else write Jessica 64, but I don't think I did.
Somebody else did.
Yeah, I think somebody else did. It's jessica.lyon, Lyon, at phoenixviewer.com. But anyways, when we do the release, that's going to be in the blog post, so you'll see it there. X-General, that is the hope. In truth, Lassie, how many beta testers have this 64-bit right now? Wait for this, folks. Wait for it.
None.
None. There you have it. None. So when I'm telling you that the 64-bit is alpha, I mean, it's not even beta tested.
I don't even have it.
See, even some of our devs don't have, what? How can you not have it? You're a dev. Anyway.
I don't have it.
we hope.
I only found out about it from SLU.
Well, you don't read Skype enough.
That's because Skype doesn't work.
The hope is that it's going to go out at the same time. But we still have yet to test it. And I've promised the beta testers that they'll have it in their hands tomorrow. And so we'll see. Incidentally, how many of you are in our preview group? Show of hands. How many people in the preview group? That's it? How to become a beta tester. Lassie, can you send... who asked that? Jeremiah, the link to that? Okay, well, for those of you not in the preview group, don't expect to see this 64-bit before anybody else. That's all I'm going to say. How many people are coming to the party tomorrow?
I am.
Well, you have to. Oh,
What
maybe
time?
the better question is, how many people know about the party tomorrow? So, how many of you know who Mankind Tracer is? I'm not seeing many hands here.
I don't know who Mankind Tracer is.
Okay, well, Mankind Tracer is like this kick-butt live performer in real life and in Second Life, and he is opening our party, our Halloween party tomorrow. For the first hour, he's singing live and taking requests and kicking butt. And the party, for those of you who don't know, you got to watch the blog. It's on the blog, firestormviewer.org. And all the information is there.
Box at the front. It's already got it.
Yeah, it's in the front and it's fixed now.
So yeah, folks.
Tell us about the party, Ed.
Tell us about the party. Well, tomorrow, starting about 1 p.m. SLT, we will be starting our this will be our fourth annual Halloween Bash. We're going to see if we can bring the region to its knees.
I think that's easy to do.
Well, it is, considering that it's the region's decorated for Halloween, and we're so script heavy at the moment, it's ridiculous. Amaya, I'll be spinning tunes until I drop. Mankind
How long did the
Tracer
last
is going to
party
do the
go?
first hour. The last party? You mean the last team one? Or anniversary party?
The anniversary party. How long did that go?
I spun tunes for 12 hours.
12 hours, folks.
Then I had to
Now
fall
that's
down.
a party.
Nope. But if you come out in a costume, I might have a special gift for someone that I think has a really cool costume.
Now let's
Hey,
talk about the costume.
I can come in costume. I could come as a human.
That would be weird. I'm gonna be in costume, and so I went out of my way yesterday and scoured Second Life everywhere looking for a good costume. And so I put a lot of effort into having a good costume for this party tomorrow. So I expect you guys to be wearing something that's not what you normally wear.
Okay, can I come as my alt then?
No.
Let's all come as Jess.
Great Fox, yeah, come in clothes anyway, please. Without bits.
So,
if possible.
Just so you know, folks, I'm actually considering handing out giving a prize to the best contest, a picture of me, a very early picture of me actually wearing shoes in Second Life. Collector's edition, there's not many of them around.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. That's like a collector's item in Second Life. That's like Philip Linden's hair. Collectible, kind of collectible.
To the best of my knowledge, there's about 8 pictures in Second Life of me actually wearing shoes in 6 years.
So that party tomorrow starts at what time?
1 p.m. SLT.
1 p.m. SLT, and the Slurl is on our website, and the time, and
Yep.
Mancon Tracer's information is there. If you're not sure who he is, check out his website, SethReagan.com. Listen to some of the stuff. He's amazing, and he sings Pink Floyd like Pink Floyd. It's just brilliant. I love it. Okay, anybody have any more questions about anything? What was the recent issue with Snow Leopard? Cinder, I'm afraid you're the best to answer that. Apache Portable Runtime, that explains everything to me. I think in layman's terms, one could say Snow Leopard is old.
Value? Definitely. File a JIRA. Actually, let's call the beta off as well as the 64-bit off. Just you know. There's
Wait,
not
what?
enough interest, I don't think.
I don't think anybody
enough
wants
interest, it. So
you guys don't want
I don't think
64-bit.
we should do it. You know.
When do we get KDE 7.3.1? Is that been released? Has it? I'll look into that. What's today? Saturday, Sunday. I'll look into that on Monday.
Anamorph, join the preview group.
I wasn't aware that Kakadu came out with a new version. I didn't get an email from them. Yeah, I guess it's worth repeating. If you don't want 64-bit before everybody else, then don't join the preview group. Was that a double negative?
It was, but it was done correctly, actually.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I did that right. Cinder, I will get on that on Monday. I'll send them an email. The way they distribute it is really funky. They have to give me like this super secret link with the password that only exists for a period of time, and I've got to grab it quick.
That's not my call as to who gets it first. There is something I wanted to talk about, if I can have a couple minutes here. I don't
Data
think
is
Jess
good.
will mind.
I'll give that to you in 1 second. Beta, I promise you, Beta will get it before preview group. I just can't promise you how much sooner you'll get it before preview group, but you will get it before preview group.
So I have two little things that I'd like to talk about. Well, they're not so little. Well, they are, but they're not. I was asked. I asked the support team in our meeting last week for topics to bring up, things that we should talk to the users about, and it was almost unanimous. Don't tell people not to clear their cache, is what they said to me. So I'd like to ask all of you to help us out and pass the information on to people that clearing your cache is not always the right thing to do. I'd suggest beating them about the head with a baseball bat if it was necessary. Yeah, no, I wouldn't go that far. But far too many people clear their cache at the drop of a hat, folks, and it really is counterproductive. So I'm asking you all to spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Don't clear your cache. And there's one other thing that I want to bring up, and that's this. When this beta release comes out, please do a clean install. Oh, George, my feet don't stink. Trust me, they're very clean. A clean install is important, folks. Okay? Yeah, you can use the backups, but please do a clean install and save yourself some headaches, as well as me listening to the support team saying, oh, I wish they'd do a clean install. Cassandra, in that case, you should only be clearing your inventory cache. So that's two things that I wanted to bring up, Jess. It's all yours again, huh?
Miro has one for you as well.
Uh-oh. Miro's got one for me as well?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Lying
I
to
need
support.
to read that. Oh, lying to support?
No. People lie to support, really?
Oh, yeah, I did a clean install. I'm pretty sure that's the one that he's talking about. Oh, yeah, I'm sure I did a clean install. So you got all three Firestorm folders, the program one and the 2 and app data. What 2 and app data? Yeah.
Well, at least Jeremiah didn't lie.
Yeah, but that's the thing, folks. When we give you advice and we send you to the wiki to do something, please, one at a time, in order, and go through them all and be careful that you do what it says. It does make a big difference. And for any of you that don't come out to classes, come out to our classes. They're actually, it's not like high school or college. We tend to have some fun. Cassandra, it's getting rid of all the Firestorm related settings. Uninstalling the program, making sure that everything's gone from that folder, if not the folder itself. And then, on top of that, the 2 folders in app data. One for your cache and the other one for your settings.
Well, speaking of settings, I got some good news for you. If you have made a settings backup from, your 4.4.2, you can import that into the 64-bit, and it seems to work fine. But I'll tell you, installing the 64-bit is the Windows 64-bit is quite different from installing the 32-bit. The installer is different, and in fact, it's a little bit what's the word? It's not as pretty. It's very basic and needs a lot of work. A lot of stuff needs a lot of work. So, you also can't. So, this 64-bit that we're giving you, there will be at some point, no doubt, another update with 64-bit sometime in the future. At least our current installer is going to make you uninstall what you have installed, and in fact doing so, you have to go through your add remove programs, or in Windows 7 it's programs and features in the control panel, which is annoying, but it's just because the installer's primitive thrown together. It was difficult to get a 64-bit installer, in a short time, and so it's not ideal. But so there's a heads up to that. I've had to go through this uninstall process several times, and it's a pain in the butt. Also, when you first launch it, it is not going to use or recognize your settings for your 32-bit, so you're going to have to enter your name and your password, so hopefully you've not forgotten it, and come to us saying, I forgot my password, and we're going to have to waste our time and say we can't help you. So make sure you got your password with you. The Windows 64-bit is quite a bit bigger in file size to download. What else?
Cassandra, I'd say you were one of the lucky few then.
In fact, it will only come in the version that can be used to log into OpenSim and Second Life. Oh, that's a good one, Worley. Yeah, there's no language choice with the installer. Also, at some point it'll, with our 32-bit installs, it shows the publisher as the Phoenix Firestorm project. We actually pay for that every year so that we can assure you that when you're installing something, if it says unknown, then it is not coming from us, and you should not be installing it if it's pretending to be an official Firestorm viewer. The installer for the 64-bit doesn't have that. It's not signed, so it will return unknown. Just make sure you only download it from our website, and then you're safe. Don't go. So, unfortunately, there are people who will take Firestorm, and they do this with other viewers as well. They'll take the viewer, they'll compile it themselves, they'll put into it a keylogger that sends them everything you type, including your password and all that kind of stuff. And then they'll start up like this fake group that's like the official Firestorm group, and they get people to join the group, and then they send people the links here, go download this new update, download the new update, and people click it and download it, and then they install it, and then their accounts get hacked. And that's because they didn't download it from us. Don't download it from a link. Go to the website, click the download, and take it from the website to be safe. Oh, Cinder. Well, I think we're almost done anyways. Thank you. If you crash out, thank you for coming. And, okay, so the questions are trickling now. Any more questions? Anyone? Bueller?
DJ Ed had asked a question earlier about OTR integration. And I don't know if he left. I don't know if he's come back or not. But basically, OTR, yeah, we're still going to do it, but it's a really low priority, so don't hold your breath.
Actually, that came up the last Q&A. And OTR, for those of you who don't know, that's encrypting your communications so that Linen Lab can't spy on you. And neither can the NSA. Well, news for you, the NSA can spy on the leaders of all kinds of other countries. Tisk, tisk. Even allied countries. tisk, tisk. They can read your chat if they want. Why would they bother? Anyway, we are going to do a form of OTR at some point in the future, but it isn't like this huge priority. And really, if you're talking about stuff that you're afraid NSA is going to see, then you're probably like some terrorist, and using SL to communicate about, terrorism things is probably not the best platform to do that.
And Cassandra, in answer to your question as to why that makes you one of the lucky ones, have you ever been watching our support group right after a release? And the number of people that come in saying, oh, this isn't working right, or this isn't showing up right, and they go off and do a clean install and come back and all the problems are gone. We really don't like telling people to do a clean install. We don't like telling you that you have to clear your cache and clear your settings and all that. We really don't. But it makes a huge difference to the average user if they do a clean install. At least then,
some anyway.
Yeah, at least then we know that the problem's with the install and not any leftovers.
I think what doing a clean install kind of helps support with is it's kind of like, so when you're doing support, right, it's process of elimination. And asking the user to do a clean install eliminates almost everything straight up off the bat. Boom, done. If you've done a clean install and you've done it properly and you still have the problem, then that has actually eliminated a huge amount of time and questions that support would have to run through and ask you and try to work out. So actually doing a clean install, and although it may take you 10 minutes, is actually saving you and support like an hour of time. And in most cases, it actually does fix the problem, in which case it saves you even more than that. But it does suck that doing a clean install fixes things. That shouldn't be the case, but...
Hey, Jess, let me ask you a question, actually. I don't know if I'm allowed to use voice or not, but I actually was helping someone about a week ago with an issue that they were having. Like, everybody else they could see fine, right? But they couldn't see themselves fine, and they were gray. I told them to turn off their HTTP and clear their cache and relog. So she clears her cache, relogs, turns off the HTTP, she can see herself and everybody fine. Now, I mean, as far as HTTP goes, I mean, do you have to, like, when you're turning off HTTP, should you clear cache as well, or no? I mean, I've
No.
Clearing cache probably wouldn't have made a difference. It's possible the HTTP might have. Linen Lab, like I mentioned earlier, has a whole bunch of work coming to us that's HTTP related, improvements in performance, and some people will say actually degrading performance by slowing things down, but I'm not convinced that that's going to happen either. But anyway, it's supposed to. There are some people with some modems and some routers who do not handle Second Life well. They don't handle the viewer very well. And Linen Lab has been, in fact, Monty Linden, bless him, he's an amazing guy, has been working for over a year now, I think, on trying to work out for these few people to fix this problem for them. And it's kind of like rewriting all the network architecture behind the viewer and server side, and no easy task. The hope is that in the coming months, and hopefully the next release possibly, we'll have Linen Lab HTTP updates and that they will all work and people won't have problems with HTTP anymore.
Okay, yeah, that was just curious because, ever since, sometimes, like, for whatever reason, I've also noticed that it also depends on your computer as well. Like, some computers handle HTTP well and some don't. I think it's also...
It also depends on your service provider. In fact, the viewer uses a lot more connections than most any other game or program or anything, aside from P2P sharing programs. And some service providers actually incorrectly think that their customers are doing a file sharing when they're using Second Life. And I believe we've actually had users get shut down by their ISPs. of course, it's been resolved, but just because it comes across that way. A lot of network stuff going back and forth with the viewer.
Yeah, see, the thing is, though, I've never seen an HTTP issue where you can see everybody else and see all the textures fine, but not see yourself fine. I was like, that's odd. That is like the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I've seen weirder with Bakefill.
They try to texture refresh on themselves first.
Oh, yeah, I asked her, did you try a texture refresh? Did you do a clean install? Did you do all that? She's like, yeah, I did all that stuff. I'm like, and I showed her the wiki page, and yes, Ed, I do follow the wiki page, by the way. I kind of send people there when they don't know what they're doing, so, and the girl was like, yeah, so I did a clean install, I cleared my cache, did all that stuff. I said, okay, so then I don't know what else your issue could be. I'm like, I was thinking, either it's an issue or it's HTTP. I said to her,
okay, so Worley's question's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could others see her fine, though? That's the big question.
I'm sorry?
Could other people see this person fine?
Oh, yeah, I could see her just fine. Oh, yeah, I was able to see her. Everyone else in the region was able to see her, but she couldn't see herself. And I even asked her, the first question I said was, what version of Firestorm are you using? And she said, oh, I'm using 4.4.2. I said, okay, well then you're using a version that supports SSB. I said, good. So, at least you're on a release channel. So, I said to her, so have you tried clearing your cache? Have you tried doing a clean install? Have you done all that? She's like, yes, I've done all of that. I said, okay, so I said to her, then try taking off your HTTP and try taking off your, see if it's either OpenGL or HTTP. And she tried the HTTP and it worked. So, I don't know.
Later, Tanya.
That's one of those things that sometimes it's best just to send them to support because there's a bunch of different things that could be going on. And there's certain things like asking the user, do you appear like that to other people, that is necessary in diagnosing that other people wouldn't even think of. It's best just to send them to support.
Well, it's funny, Jessica, because every time I try to go into support, I get booted out. So I don't know why, but it's whatever.
But you can send them to support.
Oh yeah. But I've gone in and just tried to tinker with stuff myself. I've had to learn how to do stuff without support, And so essentially, I've kind of done things on my own, and it works just fine the way I do things.
We're trying to watch stuff. He decides to go.
Yeah, I guess you got people trying to watch TV there. Anyway, are there any other question? Would it be possible to incorporate the clean install functions within the Firestorm install? In other words, yes, we have thought about that, Rodney. The problem is, though, is that part of that clean install involves files in your app data folder, which the Firestorm files themselves aren't necessarily that sensitive, aside from the chat logs, which are also stored in that same location. So we've considered that we could have the installer go in and just wipe the settings, but it's very difficult for the viewer to determine what those settings are, and especially when you have people who have different settings files. So which settings files do you have the installer wipe? So basically would end up being unpredictable or just dangerous. We could have it wipe everything, but then people lose their chat logs, they use their saved password files, they lose all kinds of stuff, and that's really annoying. And it could delete stuff that, it's possible you might put something else in that folder, porn or something. I don't know. And if the installer deleted it, it's gone. But it's just dangerous, and it's just better that we give you the step-by-step. You actually see what's in the folder. I believe, Ed, that the clean install wiki does say to back up your chat logs.
Yep. If you want to save them, back them up.
The correct fix is not to have the installer do the clean install. The correct fix is to figure out why clean installs fix things, and fix it. The fact is, clean installs shouldn't be necessary to diagnose problems and to be a fix-all. At the moment, it is, and we have spent actually quite a bit of time, a lot of time invested in trying to figure this out. Why some people get corrupt settings while others don't. I've never had the problem. I know Alex has said that Alex has never had the problem. Did I?
You did once.
I don't remember.
And I made
How
you
long
do a
was
clean
that?
install. Oh, this was way back.
It
And
must
we
have been.
made you do a clean install. We all yelled at you.
I'm one of the worst ones for not doing clean installs. I'll tell you what, our beta testers are told almost every single time they get a new version to test, they have to do a clean install. And our support people do it as well.
Actually, Jess, beta testers are being told not to do clean installs anymore.
Oh, good. That's what I would like to see, because they're going to come across the same issues that our support people do.
Because we're looking for that. Well, it serves twofold. That's what most of our users do. Most of our users don't do clean installs.
Right.
And we're looking for that settings thing. If they come across something that's fixed with a clean install, it's a lot easier for me to get a beta tester to give me their settings files than it is to get those files from a normal user.
Oh, good.
So hopefully...
Good, that's good.
Hopefully, Lassie, you're going to figure something out on that one. I got my fingers crossed for you, man.
Well, we're trying.
Because I hate having to tell people to do a clean install, but it's you're starting from a clean base. Any problems are going to be in the viewer, not related to an old file. So.
Okay, where are we with questions then? We're an hour and a half in. Any more questions? Gonna do the auctioneer thing. Going once? Any more questions? Going once? Going once? Going once?
Sold.
Not yet. I gotta say going twice before I can say sold. What's the status on the ATI crash on Mesh? I'm still on Catalyst 12.1. You mean on selecting Mesh when you right click on Mesh? Support? Help? I remember seeing something about that pass through our chat somewhere.
I have a solution for that, and that's not use an ATI card, but that's not practical for everyone.
Oh, that's slander and propaganda. That's terrible. We're gonna get sued by ATI now.
No, we won't. They don't exist anymore. AMD took them over.
Okay, what Worley says. Try the update to the latest Catalyst and see what that does. I'm actually of the frame of mind. I used to have an ATI card. I used to love ATI. And then I learned that almost every time you update your ATI drivers, SL goes to hell. And so I just stopped updating my ATI drivers. But sometimes now you have to update your ATI drivers or else Second Life goes to hell. And sometimes when you do update them, it goes to hell anyways. I like ATI. It just doesn't seem to be as compatible with Second Life regularly as NVIDIA.
It's better than it used to be, but still not up there.
That's good to hear, Starlight. I'm presuming you're on the 64-bit self-compile then, right? Oh, right. Duh. So that was one of our hopes, right? Because we do have a memory crash. I think Lena Lab has it too. I think all the viewers have it, actually. And although just letting the viewer use more memory is not the proper fix for memory crash, but hey, if it works.
Not yet 55. We're having a party tomorrow, though, that you're invited to.
Every time I hope that there won't be any more questions, somebody has a question. Any more questions? Hint, hint.
Later, Merp.
Thanks, Mira. Ask away, Annie. Hugsy, have you filed a feature request for that or an improvement to an existing feature? Because probably not going to happen unless you do that at least first. Well, Cami, the answer was to try the latest catalyst. And that might be the fix for mesh. And if Linden Lab has that fix, by the way, we're up to date with Linden Lab stable code with this release, so...
Yeah, now Randy released that fix in his viewer because it was in the latest Linden code, so that is actually a bug fix that Linden Lab fixed, by the way.
It's hard to hear you, Neil. We got your TV coming through the background. Do we have a fix for interest list? No. So Linden Lab is releasing soon-ish, possibly not so soon, new code with interest list fixes. For those of you that don't know, that's the bug that when you land somewhere and you know your house is right in front of you, but yet it's not there until you right-click on empty space and suddenly, poof, ta-da, it's there. That's an interest list bug. The fix for that is not a small fix. It is a whole crap ton of code. And it's going to be a nightmare to merge, and it's not ready yet. So, we expect that we'll have that in the next release, not this one. So I'm afraid you're going to have to live with that bug a little bit longer. But one is coming, yes.
And you should keep in mind that the last several times Linden Lab has attempted to fix interest lists, they've made it worse.
Yeah. 55. Second Saturday in November, and then the fourth Saturday in November will be the next two Q&As. Hopefully, assuming we can get the bodies up here. Oh, I won't forget tomorrow's party. Trust me, I'm not allowed to. I've decided what I'm gonna do, Jess.
What?
My alt's gonna come in as me, and I'm gonna come in as my alt. How's that?
As long as somebody's there without shoes. Yeah, good luck with the viewer interesting. Worley just gave you a link to their code repository for that. And have fun. And I think we're out of questions, Ed. Are we out of questions? Can it be possible?
55 wants to know when we can expect the update. By the end of the month.
End of the month, yeah.
More or less.
Give or take. It might be a Halloween release. Spooky. Yeah, we're unfortunately
quite aware of that.
Quite aware of that.
Which is why a lot of my IMs are not getting answered, because I've been updating class material. Take care, Neil.
Okay, folks, I'm going to call an end to this shenanigans Q&A. Thank you all for coming. I hope we got your questions answered. If you guys could do us a favor and like you see somebody in some other group have a question that we may have answered tonight here at the Q&A, please feel free to pass on the information, because the more people know, the easier it is for them, the easier it is for us, and it's just nice to help people out. And Anara Pei is with us, blogger extraordinaire, and she's going to transcribe this, and it's being recorded on video as well. And so she'll have a blog post in a couple days for your friends who couldn't make it, and with the highlights of things and whatnot. So thank you, Anara, as always. Thank you. I saw you typing.
I want to thank you all for coming out too. It's very encouraging that you're willing to come out and ask questions and get the information straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, rather than run around listening to rumors. And I think we made it through it again, Jess. There's Firestorm t-shirts available in the class notes box, is there not? I haven't got anybody to make me some mesh ones yet. Actually, I have somebody in
Nikki
mind,
is...
but are all...
Recording is done. Nikki is being a griefer right now, sending me links that are making me laugh, like this one. And this is the Q&A is over, by the way, folks. It's very cruel what they're doing to this poor young lady, but it is so funny. I can't stop laughing every time I watch it. Schadenfreude. Now, Nikki, our star lead dev, is trying to make me screw up during the Q&A.
Yeah, right. Just fire somebody? Good luck.
No, that's what she wants.
I'm in line first. Sorry, I've had my request in to be fired longer than anybody else on the team. Matter of fact, I tried to get fired before we had Phoenix, didn't we?
I think it was shortly after that, actually.
Oh, Jerry, you want to come over to the other classroom? I'll put out my teddy bear and he'll love you to death. Yeah, you know what? A lot of people say that. That teddy bear is awesome, Cammy. I love my teddy bear.
Booby trap. This is a PG region, although you couldn't tell with Lassie here. Lassie, I gotta tell you something. That bikini top, I think that's what that is, actually looks more like kind of like an elastic band that's just trying to keep them from flying out and like knocking people in the head.
Oh, please. I'm PG in France.
Okay, I've turned scripts back on.
I saw that.
I am tired. Been a long day. Been a long week.
Can we turn damage on so I can send everybody home? I'll throw a couple bears out and everybody would automatically just go home. All right, I'm out of here too, folks. I'm going to get back to trying to finish up those class notes.
Have a great morning, evening, afternoon, Hanukkah, whatever it is for you. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks all, and we'll catch y'all later. Poof.